I would invite you into a season of belief, right? Of proving what's possible rather than being limited by what it is that you could imagine. So, scale is about moving beyond what you can see, and that requires a different kind of mindset.
Hello and welcome back, my friends, to Ignite 180 podcast. I'm your host, Sharita Santiago, and I am delighted today to have a special guest here to speak with us about leveling up and what it looks like to scale in the sphere of our influence. I am delighted to introduce my friend and the founder and CEO of Breaker 28, Melanie Rivera.
Hey, y'all.
Mel, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm excited to be here and to get to work with you and speak to your audience.
Excellent, excellent. Mel is a boss, not only in the sphere of consulting, DEI, org development, but she has helped tons of men and women make transformations within their organizations, their teams, as well as individually. But one of the things we're going to talk about on today is Mel's specialty. She has a very unique specialization in helping those who are wanting to work in the consulting space level up their business. And what we'd like to do is talk about what that looks like in by the way of leveling up business, but also just leveling up your life. How do we scale? So today we're going to talk a little bit about scaling business. So without further ado, Mel, we're going to go ahead and jump on into it. I want to begin this conversation with making some clarity and doing some meaning making around defining what it means to start a business and then scale a business. So if you could start there, and then we'll dive into some of the nuances or aspects of what that looks like.
Sure. So, as Sharita mentioned, I have had a consultancy that's been full time for the greater part of the past 5 years. And when I built it, what was really important to me is that it was profitable from day one. I don't know about you all, but I didn't have the resources in my life to be able to just sit in somebody's garage and code for years to get things profitable. That's awesome that some people can. I couldn't. I needed to build a business that was profitable from day one. And so when I built my consultancy, I was doing the core things that any business would, right? Making sure that our monthly expenses are less than what we take in, making sure that I was serving my clients well and they were telling others so I could get new business, etc. But I wasn't thinking in terms of doing it at scale. True story, I was just thinking of making sure we made enough money. So the first year I worked so hard. I mean, backbreaking, like worked so hard. We made a ton of money, but it wasn't sustainable. I wasn't building a company. I was really building a job, a really professional consulting job. And then as I have been in the business over time, and now that I have a family, a little son, all sorts of other things, I have to think about the business in a more sustainable way. That means thinking about how do I build a business that can scale beyond my limitations as the solo practitioner, as the trainer in chief, as the coach in chief. Like, how could I build something bigger than me? And I think that that's the difference. Am I limited to what I can do? Or am I building a structure that can be greater than me and that I can multiply myself through others in?
Yeah, that's good. I as you shared your desire to come in and make money right away and become profitable right away, I think that's something that resonates with everyone who starts a business. And I immediately thought about this hustle culture that we're in, right?
Mhm.
So we live in a society where folks are doing Uber Eats, they're doing the Amazon runs, everyone's trying to hustle up, muscle up so that they can make ends meet, touch, shake hands, and hug each other. Um, what can you tell us a little bit about the difference between that hustle mentality and the art of scaling? Because I want to dive into the mindset that goes into the distinction.
Sure. So the first thing that I actually wanted to say, last question, but I didn't get to, is not everybody who starts a business makes money.com.
Mm,
I know that's obvious sounding, right? But like real talk, most people who go into consultancy, who go into training, who go into an Avon business, who go into, they actually lose money on the business. They don't follow through on what it is they intend to do. So like step zero, right, is like actually just a hobby that's very expensive. And we're
mm,
trying to move from that to a business that's profitable. And then from that into a more scalable, sustainable system for ourselves. But one of the differences that nobody told me, so let's just say it, that helped me get ahead that I didn't realize I was doing, is like there's a difference between being busy and being impactful, right? And that's probably the heart of lots of things you talk about with your audience.
Mhm.
And busy comes out of this frenzy on the inside of us to produce, right? That sometimes isn't strategic. It actually might just be our lizard brain, our panic on the inside of us, that ancient part of our brain that's like, ooh, gotta solve a problem, gotta get food, gotta run, and that is not the part of us that makes very good decisions. That's
Mhm.
the part of us that helps us live to another day. And I don't know about you, but those of us who've been through seasons of our life where we felt like we were surviving, we might have turned that part on and never turned it off.
Oh, that's
And
good.
in business, the way that manifests is, have you ever met someone that's always doing 8 things and they never have any money? Like they are so busy. They are doing this fair, they're doing this thing, they're so, I mean, hardest work, way harder working than me, like much harder working, but they
Mhm.
they have no cash. They always have a new idea. Nothing ever sees results. It gets to a place where it's hard to even believe in them, even though you want to, even their family, their friend, because they got no fruit to what they do. Part
Mhm.
of that is jumping from opportunity to opportunity to opportunity to opportunity, as opposed to measuring twice and cutting once, and taking a more strategic approach to choosing what you invest in, how you add value to the market, and what you're willing to give in order to make your business work. The other thing I'd share here is that somehow the message got twisted that in order to make money in business, you just have to work hard. But the truth about making money in business is it's about serving. It's
Yes.
about finding a need and meeting that need so well, people are happy to give you cash.
Mhm.
So, for example, let's say you broke your windshield and you were in the middle of a shopping mall. You are not going to be angry to have to pay $50 if you have $50 to know that that windshield can be repaired, or $100 or whatever it is right now. Husband handles
Mhm.
that. I really don't know. Um, at that moment, your need is met. And so,
Mhm.
if you have the requisite resources, it is your pleasure to pay them what you need to pay them for them to meet your need. When we are trying to get into business and the market isn't paying for what it is we're selling, that's often a signal that we haven't identified the right need, or we're not skilled enough yet to meet that need at mastery level where they're willing to pay for it. And so when we have this hustle mindset, we're thinking about what we need. I need cash. I need to make money. I need to do this. I need to get out of debt. We're not thinking about them. And the tricky thing about business is you can't succeed if you're only thinking about you. You have to
Yeah.
be thinking about your customer. You have to be centering them. If not, the market will find you out. Ask me how I know.
Mhm. Yeah, that the nuggets that you just dropped, especially the busy versus impactful. I was once very guilty of that, finding myself busying in tinkering with a whole lot of concepts and ideas that led to no place. Like they led nowhere. I'm here helping someone do something, they're helping someone. And it felt like it was fulfilling. But when thinking about what I really wanted to fulfill my life was to change the legacy of my family lineage, not having the resources growing up, not having the things I needed, being busy and putting my hands in everything, being a brain to pick every 5 minutes. I was somebody's brain. I'm coming over to pick your brain. Yeah, girl. And people buying me sandwiches to pick my brain, sit down, and you get multi-million dollar genius ideas from this brain. And
Mhm.
in exchange, I get a sandwich from Panera Bread. How about that? Because there's some of us who are out here having that experience. Am I right, Mel?
Mhm.
so so I want to talk about then what is a winning mindset when we think about like the ideas that we hold, to get to the point where you are right now today, where you were able to become profitable from what day one, build up a great repertoire of clients, you're sought after by the industry. How do those individuals who are sitting in their home with a small idea shift the way that they think about themselves, about their plan, about the market,
Mhm.
to become or find themselves where you are right now?
Yep. So I can think of a couple shifts that were really meaningful for me that I think would be true of your audience as well. Here's one: problem to opportunity.
Mm,
So, to be a successful CEO or founder, one of the things that I noticed that's different about me than other folks who are really good at number 2 level jobs or number 3 level jobs, or maybe as managers in organizations, is when the pressure comes, what I do. So, Sharita, you run your own stuff. You also run big departments and have run departments in multiple organizations. pressure's going to come, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whether that's external market pressure, internal political pressure, whatever it is, it's going to come. But if you're going to be successful as a business owner that's scaling, then you're going to have bigger problems, even bigger money problems. Let me tell you, the first time I had a $100,000 tax bill, Jesus, right? Like I didn't even know what to do with that. Like that's somebody's salary, right? And so the higher you go, it is a privilege to have to pay more money to the government. It is a privilege to have bigger costs of salaries and benefits and all those other things. It's part of the scaling process, right? And so when those bigger financial challenges or even market challenges emerge, what is your move? Is your move to shrink back in fear, or have you built the resilience to push in? So, for example, I'm not exactly a DEI consultant. I do work in the area of DEI, but I also work in talent, organization development, and other places too. And where those rivers meet is really where we live. But our industry is changing. And so lots of consultants around me are freaking out, right? But that lights me up like a Christmas tree. I'm like, okay, what we gonna do? What new products can we offer? How can we make what we do make sense to people? How can we explain it in a different way? What other things might we pivot and do? So if you turn on when there's a problem, that's the mindset shift that's going to make you very successful as an entrepreneur and as a CEO or founder. The second shift I would invite you to make is how you think about strategic uses of your time. So I want to hold in tension two ideas that are absolutely true. One, 1,000 people picking your brain for no money is a mistake. Two, sometimes doing the right thing for free for the right person opens up a door that you cannot pay for. And by that, I don't mean that I'm giving away coaching for free or doing stuff like that. But every now and then, for example, I might do a pro bono training for a particular organization I really believe in, or I might speak at a conference for free that I really believe in. Or conversely, I may charge, but I may do an additional service I don't typically provide, etc. And so knowing when to make those investments in people, either because you believe in them, or
Yeah.
two, because you think that you want to build a partnership with them and you need to sort of get to know them, they need to get to know you, or three, just because you felt led to do it, sometimes it's the right move. The difference between what I do and what people do when they just let people rent their brain for free is I am choiceful and intentional about my decision to say yes. I'm not saying yes because I feel bad saying no. I'm saying yes because I feel led that this is the right investment of my time. And a lot of times when people are starting out, what we don't say out loud is we're not confident in what we bring.
Mm,
And so we're charging little $100 an hour because we don't feel confident, not because that's actually what our skills are worth. And not because we're trying to do somebody a favor either. Let's be honest. A lot of times, like, oh, I'm not sure what to charge, so maybe $100. But when you're choosing your niche correctly and
mm.
you're confident about what you bring in that niche, you should charge what the market charges. And you probably have more confidence to do it. Often when we build too low or are offering ourselves for free, it's not generosity, it's actually insecurity. So shifting from insecurity
That's
and
good.
scarcity into generosity and strategy. That would be the second shift that I would recommend.
Oh, Mel, that was good. I absolutely agree with you in thinking about ways to utilize your time in making strategic decision making and looking at problem solving. I took a workshop with Mel because I believe in what it is that she offers, especially in her sphere of influence. I did one of her coaching trainings and it was on scaling to find your level of comfortability. I want you to talk about um, the thing that prevents us from being able to own the gift that would give us the ability to scale. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yes, permission to
Okay.
be a little spicy on this one.
Be as
So
spicy as you need to be.
okay. So again, holding ideas in tension. So here's the
Yeah.
first idea that I'm going to hold. The first idea is sometimes we have been socialized, particularly women of color and Black women, have been socialized not to ask, not to insist, not to push for what it is that we need or advocate for ourselves. There's actually data that says that women can advocate much better for somebody else than they tend to advocate for themselves. So it's almost like the best way to get a raise is to imagine you're advocating for somebody else because
Yes.
we've been socialized not to ask for ourselves, some of us, right? And then some of us grow up in families like mine that are matriarchal where grandma runs it. And you're like, oh, what? Raises are a problem? What? What's that?
Mhm.
So I didn't have that particular problem. But then the second thing, and this is the thing that's a little spicy to say, but I'm gonna say it, is sometimes we call ourselves experts at things we're not experts in.
Mhm.
Or sometimes, let's say, this is a great example. I was doing a session and around scaling a business, a consulting business, with someone who had been a leader in an organization but had never done coaching before.
Mhm.
And so, even though they had great leadership credentials, they didn't have credentials as an executive coach. But rather than say, you know what, I'm a budding coach, let me start in a place where I have expertise, which is advising on leadership issues, they instead tried to just parlay into coaching. And then we're having trouble setting a competitive rate because they
Yeah.
didn't feel confident. So sometimes imposter syndrome is a thing. Sometimes you're telling the truth. You don't know it yet. And
Yeah.
in that case, I would invite you to start with something you know and that you can do at mastery, and then give yourself the space to expand into those skills that you're developing. So, for example, if you're finding that you don't feel confident charging the $200 an hour you would need to charge to make your business work, then is there an area you do know that you could charge $200 an hour and you would feel confident in? Specifically, senior directors and above, I'm talking to you. So, like, maybe you wouldn't feel confident charging that for strategic planning work because you haven't done a lot of that. But
Right.
if we're advising on the implications of policy on nonprofits in the era of the new admin, maybe that's a place you do feel quite confident. In that case, let's start there, friend. Let's not try to convince ourselves and will ourselves to charge our worth, because your worth might be $100 an hour at this point. You might not have proven, And so the spicy thing is, I'm not inviting you to charge more than you actually can prove. I'm inviting you to start a business in the area where you already have receipts. And if you don't have receipts, don't start the business yet. Go get them and come back.
Mm. Yeah, I remember the first time I went out with you and I heard someone quote a scripture from Second Kings about what you have in your hands, and I remember
Mm-hmm.
starting just at that place. Like I do training and development. I'll start here and I'll figure out what works for me. And as the saying goes, everything is figure outable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to walk a bit through how one might begin if they're thinking about branching into a journey of consulting,
Mm-hmm.
or scaling whatever it is that they have currently. Maybe someone's doing a t-shirt business, or I've met tons of students who do lashes, nails, and hair. It's very
Come on.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you
A
know,
needed service.
looking
Yes.
to scale. And in fact, I want to be very intentional about this because I'm also encountering, I've encountered lots of people in my own community who are servicemen and women, think E-Myth, who are
Mm-hmm.
more of the technicians in their area. They
Mm-hmm.
are the ones doing the technical work. So the photographers, videographers, consultants. What would be the steps to one starting? And if you could just refine, like, where we would kind of put a couple of pins in the actual scaling. So, like, start to
Mm-hmm.
scale, what does that look like?
Sure. So the first thing I would think about is productization. Productization. So here's how I've heard it said: don't sell consulting services, sell washing machines. And here's what I mean. So I do training, coaching, and consulting to make organizations more effective, especially across lines of race and gender and all these dimensions of difference and power. Okay. I could make a custom thing for every person I work with. And the challenge is then I can't build on what I've already done. So if every training is brand new, then I don't get any equity from the work that I've already done in building a suite of 30 trainings that I could use. Or
Hmm.
if every strategic planning process is custom and different, right? Wildly different. I don't get to benefit from the consultants that I worked with on previous ones who already know my way of doing things. So the first piece is, how can I find things that are repeatable, that I can do over and over again the same way, based on the trend of what I see and what clients want and need. So, for example, in my space, giving and receiving feedback across lines of positional power, very common thing that people want training on, right? No matter where you are, could always get better. So you better believe I have a dope training in that area, right? Because that's an area where I could just sell the washing machine. I don't have to rebuild something custom. And if I want a custom, I can zhuzh up my scenarios. I can add a couple of little notes to my presentation and framing, but I don't have to change the core of what I do. So what does that mean if you're a nail tech? Maybe you have a bridal package. So if a bride wants all of her bridesmaids to come and do their nails, okay, we can do up to 10 sets, and you're going to get this and you're going to get that, and this is the cost. And you already know how many you're offering, so you know if you need to hire additional technicians, what the margin is on what they make versus what you make. You can have supplies in stock. You can have only a set number of colors that they can choose from, etc. That is way more profitable and scalable than if you gave them 30 colors to choose from. You let them pick from 2 people to 10 people or 27 people. Then you have to hire people last minute and you're looking bananas. So that's one example if you have like more of a service-based business. If you have a product-based business, it's a lot easier to think about scale because you just have to figure out a way to duplicate what it is that you offer without you having to be the one to do it. So you got to hire a machine. You got to hire a couple people who can do it for you. You got to hire a distribution center. Like there are lots of ways that you can do it. You can hack it with a system that's external, like a drop shipping business where you have the books printed off site. You can find a local person to help you, maybe a print company that you work with all the time that's not as price effective, but maybe gives you more customization. Or if it was something like calligraphy or a calligraphy notebook or something, maybe you have 6 people doing it for you rather than you doing it yourself. So it's a lot easier to think there. In both those cases, though, the big shift for you as an entrepreneur is to stop getting joy out of the work itself and
Mhm.
start getting joy out of the systems you're building around that work. And that is really hard. That's a hard shift to make, right? If you love training, right? Or if you love speaking, pointing to you, Sharita, right? Like it's a different thing when you have other people doing it for you and you don't get to be in the work.
Yes.
And you don't get to get the satisfaction from the praise of people in the work. It's a shift in your mind to being the owner of the business rather than the doer in the business.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to be owners. The listeners want to be owners, at least having a level of ownership in their lives, giving them the capacity to live the kind of life that they were meant to live. So,
Mhm.
absolutely agree. Are there any, if you had to think about like non negotiable essential habits that you needed as a leader in your space, something that if you look back at the inception of starting Breaker 28 to where you are right now, what are non-negotiable skills, habits that you needed to have in place? So maybe you could talk about the habits and the skill sets.
Yeah, sure. So habits, looking at the data of my business, and that's qualitative and quantitative. Are clients coming back? Are they happy? Do I actually read the surveys that come in, and do I take notes from them and change for the future? Like looking at the money that's coming in, looking at the money per hour spent. Is it profitable for me, or am I just working myself into the ground for peanuts? Having a willingness to confront the brutal facts of my business, I guess, would be the first thing. The second thing that I would think about is having an improvement orientation. So, as CEO or founder, you are the improver in chief. Your business only improves at the rate that you do. And so, if you're still doing things the lame way you did them year one, right? If you're still being raggedy, as some might say, right? Like then your business results will be raggedy. That's how it's going to work. If you want those business results to improve, guess who improves first? So,
Yep.
for example, if my time management sucks, then I'm going to be less efficient. Then I'm going to get less work done for clients. Then I'm going to ship less. Then I'm going to make less money. Then I'm going to make less sales calls. Then I'm going to. But if my time management improves, all of those other metrics improve. And
Yes.
so the hardest thing about leading a business to scale is you're leading yourself differently and requiring different things and raising your standards for how you show up. And there's no one to hold you accountable to that
Yeah.
except maybe the data from your business. And that's tricky.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Your behavior, your lifestyle has to become central to the work that you essentially do. I love that.
Can I throw one more thing in?
Yes. Yep.
Personal accountability. So I have noticed that as I have raised my level of personal accountability, my business results have increased.
Mm-hmm.
So there were seasons where I personally, just even owning a business, was less accountable to myself and to the things that I committed to do. I'm not saying like I was like rough and not doing what I said at all, but I was
Mm-hmm.
less than my best. And guess where that showed up? In the bank receipts, friend. And so as I have increased my standards and my level of personal accountability, doing what I say, um, being consistent, maximizing my time, being more focused and intentional, delegating better, like all those things that I, as a business leader, need to be accountable to do, then I have seen better outcomes. The challenge with personal accountability is many of us who've had a job have learned to only be accountable when somebody's watching.
Yep. Mhm.
sometimes not even when somebody's watching, if we're being honest, right? And so, what does it look like when your standard of accountability improves? Not because you're trying to not get in trouble or to get a reward, but because your willingness to keep your word is its own reward.
Mhm.
That's what I'm leaning into in this season, and I'm seeing results increase in my business as my integrity, my personal integrity, is improving.
Excellent, excellent. So our current president gave executive orders. We
Mhm,
heard what is coming down the pike. There
mhm,
are lots of changes in government, changes in the systems that we talked about, in the way that human beings will be seen and experienced as they are
mhm, mhm,
signing up for employment and a number of things.
mhm,
It
mhm,
could be a terrible thing. It could be a great thing. We don't know until it all happens, right? Um,
mhm.
but with that said, and what we've heard, what lens, perspective, or way should someone view what we might experience? And not to make this political, but we're going to experience
Mhm,
these changes in the next 4 years that will have
mhm.
significant impact on business and the way we do business. Can you speak to what might be a strategic approach in looking at problem solving?
Yes. So, firstly, from a mindset perspective, a proverb that guides my life is show me a man who's skillful and diligent, they will stand before kings. Right. And so, there's a little more to it, but the headline is, you know what is above any rule? Your ability to be amazing, your ability to be the best that ever done it. Like to the degree you are the GOAT, you are Michael Jordan himself. I was
Yes.
going to say Jackson, the goat
Jackson is a
also,
goat.
different goat, right? But
Goat.
like to the extent that you are the goat in your space, to the extent you can with your context, with your resources, with all that stuff, like people will remember you and you will find a way to get work. I think what this is going to be is it's going to be a killer for mediocre people.
Mm.
But what we have is the ability to tap into distinction. And so I mean, for me, that's why I don't freak out about this. There are lots of people around me freaking out, and I'm not saying that it will not have real impact. What I'm saying is that 1,000 people might have that impact. It ain't gonna come near me because I
Yeah.
will grow and I will improve and I will pivot and I will solve the problem and I will keep working until we break through. And
Yeah.
so I invite you to that sort of a resilient mindset. For 1,000 people that fail in this season, there will be 500 that succeed. Are you that 500? Like, because I am. And like I'm going to choose to be on the side of the people that push through, not on the side of folks who drown. And that's why communities like the ones you're building are so important, because
Yeah.
sometimes you need examples to show you what's possible. So from a mindset perspective, first, I ain't sinking. I don't care what happens. We're gonna figure this thing out. That's the first piece. The second piece I would wonder about is how do you imagine the needs that will emerge as a result of some things that are changing? So I love the advice that I once heard, in a gold rush, sell shovels. Like,
Mm.
don't actually try to sell the gold mine, try to find the gold yourself, try, find the shovels, find the thing that
Yeah.
people are going to need to do the thing they want to do. So I invite you all to futurism. Given the changes that you foresee, where are the needs going to be in 5 years? Could you find a way to pivot so that you're serving those needs and selling shovels?
Mm.
Not a major shift, but even a tweak that would get you more in the vein of where people's needs will be. But again, that means you have to stop focusing on yourself and what you need and start focusing on what people need. In light of the downstream impact of what's happening, there will be new needs that emerge, even in the workplace, right? Like, so as a consultant to mostly organizations, I am for sure peeping how is the need going to shift in light of what's going on. My mission doesn't change, but I am tactically flexible to achieve it however I need to achieve it, right? And so I just invite you all to think about looking to the future and finding the next wave as opposed to freaking out about the wave that just hit us.
Oh, that's good. And that's so good that I think, yes, we're talking about business, but I believe what you just shared right now can be applied to church. It can be
Mm-hmm,
applied to community organizations, families
mm-hmm,
in their homes, really taking a look within and figuring out how to become more fluid in this particular season. That was some really great advice. So, what I'd like to do now, we're going to make a transition,
mm-hmm.
and I want you to highlight your stuff. Tell us about
Mhm.
your programs, where our listeners can find you. Tell us about your handles.
Mhm.
Drop your jewels right here so that those who are listening in on this podcast know how to reach you.
Absolutely. So the best place to reach me is at our website, breaker28.com. That's my consultancy website. But we also have a feature that is available now, Profit from Day One, which is the portion of our business meant to give back to future consultants. So I didn't have, all the insights that I have now on day one. And so the intent is to prevent some of the head bumps that I got, that I bet you got, Sharita. I bet that others have gotten as well along the way, by showing our cards up front. How do you build a consultancy profitable from day one? That's just a fraction of what I do, though. Most of what I do is lead a business that does coaching, training, and consulting to nonprofits and mission-driven businesses. So breaker28.com is the best way to reach me. I'm also on LinkedIn and very friendly. So if you want to find my profile, I think it's LinkedIn/in/Melanie S. Rivera. Um, and those are the two places where you'll get most of my thought leadership.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Mel, you first of all dropped jewels on us today. I want to say thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. We'll post information about your organization on our website as well at ignite180.co. And do you have any final words that you want to leave us with before signing off on today?
Yeah, I would invite you into a season of belief, right? Of proving what's possible rather than being limited by what it is that you could imagine. So scale is about moving beyond what you can see. And that requires a different kind of mindset. It isn't a 10% improvement, 10% improvement, 10% improvement mindset. It's a moonshot mindset. And so I just invite you into that place of visioning and imagining for what the world needs, for what your business needs, like not thinking in terms of these small incremental increases, although those are dope, but actually this moment of shift, of transition is a moment where we can leapfrog. And so just inviting your audience into creating space for themselves to even imagine what a leapfrog for me and my business would look like and who I would need to be in order to make that happen.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I thank you again for being our guest on today. And until next time, you guys, God bless and have an amazing day.
See ya. Thanks again.